You are a fan of 80s shred music, but you've listened to it all now? Paul Gilbert, Vinnie Moore, Tony McAlpine, Jason Becker, they are all familiar names for you, but you want something new, something refreshing, something that you haven't known before? Well, then this is the perfect video today, because today I'm going to give you my top picks for the most underrated and unknown shred heroes from the 80s. Here we go. Hey Guitar Champion, what's going on? I'm Justin Hombach, back from my practice dojo, and welcome to today's video. I have 4 players now for you that I highly recommend to check out, and especially the last band is something that blew my mind when I heard of them the first time a couple of years ago, and I thought, like, why the fuck did I never heard about these guys before? For each of those players I have a link provided for you as well. And you can find the tabs for those links in the description box. There you can download them for free. And if you want to have slow version of the tabs and a fully explanation on how to use them musically and what the correct technique for those licks are, then check out the ZEN of Shred, my Patreon Academy, because there I also have a big video explaining those licks. Not only that, there we also have a lot of challenges, videos about music theory, licks, solos, and much more. So check the link in the description box, and for $5 per month, you can be part of the ZEN of Shred Patreon community. Alright, let's start with player number 1. And for player number 1, I have chosen Chris Poland. Well, maybe not the most unknown player on that list, because he played in a pretty big band called what a bad joke. Megadeth, of course. But I would still say, when you compare, favorite Megadeth guitar player lists, I still think that Chris Poland is quite low on those lists. A lot of people will say, obviously, Marty Friedman, some will say Kiko Loureiro, some other will say Chris Broderick. But yeah, I still think that Chris Poland deserves a higher rank on those lists. Not necessarily because of his work in Megadeth, absolutely great, of course, but more because of his work from his solo record, Return to Metalopolis. In that record, he perfectly blends his influences from progressive music, like Rush, but also from thrash music, like from back in the days with Megadeth, but also then his distinguished and kind of individual sound where he's combining blues, fusion, Jan Hammer keyboard inspired lines over this kind of metal aspects. I really love his approach. I love his approach of outside playing, and that's actually something that we're going to learn in the lick, how he is combining scales with outside scales to resolve to a scale back again, but we're going to that in a second. Before that, I just wanted to recommend check Return to Metalopolis. Luckily, you can listen to all of those records, hello Ingvi, and on Spotify, because on physical CD they're pretty hard to get nowadays. But on Spotify, luckily, we can listen to all of their catalog. So, highly recommend to check out Return to Metalopolis. It's a full instrumental record, but his tone and his sound is so unique. There are not much player around there that have a similar sound, a similar technique. Well, there's maybe one, but that would be someone for most underrated guitar heroes from the 90s era video, which will come next week, because I want to do this for the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s for the next 4 weeks. So you better subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and if you want to know more about the beauty of shred and soloing guitar. Alright, let's check out the link that I have for you today, and then we're going to the second player. The second player on my list is Joey Tafolla. When it comes to the Shrapnel record, Rooster, I would say, unfortunately, and not really deservingly, Joey is one of the least successful guys and least kind of hyped guys. When you compare it to Jason Becker, Paul Gilbert, Marty Friedman, those guys, Joey Tafolla was quite under the radar. Unfortunately, because especially his first record is a must-have for every shred fanatic and every shred nerd. What I really like about Joey's playing is that, yes, he has a traditional neoclassical side, but he also has like a bebop blues kind of side, combining bebop chromatic kind of phrases to this metal music. And that's what's all about in the lick that I have for you as well, because the lick is based on a lick from his REM H video that I highly recommend. The next cool thing about the first Joey Tafolla record is the first song on that record, which is called Eternity's End. That's a name that should be quite familiar for you, for everybody who's following me for a while, because that's the shred band where I'm in together with my shred partner in crime, 𝗏 𝗏𝗏. So if you are a fan of shred music, but you want shred music with a modern view on it, then check out Eternity's End, especially the last record. So, and here's the link for Joey Tafolla. Again, if you want to have the tabs, check the link in the description box. There you can download it for free. Here we go. Alright, up next we have Chris Impellitteri. You know, a lot of people were saying, okay, Chris is, you know, like the typical Yngwie clone, but I not necessarily think that too, because the songwriting and the sound of Chris is still a little bit different. I would say sloppy is maybe not the most positive word, it's more rough. His playing compared to Yngwie is a little bit more rough, a little bit more modern in a way. He is using some more scales than only A harmonic minor, definitely. But even though that he released a lot of stuff in the 90s, but his debut record from the 80s, Stand in Line, together with Graham Bonehead, one of the most legendary vocalists from the 80s, is really must-have for us shred players. I really, really like that playing. I really, really like that record. I mean, he's probably most known for his song 70th Century Chicken Picking, which comes from the 90s, but Stand in Line, that's definitely a shred classic, or it should be a shred classic, because the playing on there is just phenomenal. It's pure firework, pure roller coaster kind of experience, but also the songwriting and the arrangements are actually pretty good. There's a really good documentary about Chris Impellitteri on YouTube, where somebody is really honoring his career, especially in questioning why he was never so famous in the States, but he is extremely famous over in Japan and in Asia, which I think he definitely deserved being much more famous, because his playing is, for everybody of us shred nerds, again, a must-have, must-known. And he is now a really, really great speed picking lick in the style of Chris Impellitteri. Impellitteri. Yeah. And the last band that I have here on that list is a band called Apocrypha. Whenever you have heard of that band, congratulations, because I hadn't, and I'd really, really sad about that. I never found out about this band before. I once made, together with my buddy 𝗏 𝗏𝗏, a podcast episode for my German guitar podcast called Let's Talk Guitar. And there we talked about Shrapnel Records. And he was dropping that name, Apocrypha. And he was like, you probably never heard about them. I was like, no, I have no clue. And he was like, they are like Cacophony, but much better. And yes, they are. I mean, they are definitely inspired by Cacophony, but it's darker, it's heavier, it's faster, and the production is much better compared to Cacophony, which is not hard. The production of Cacophony has some charm, but this production is much easier to listen to. But the music is just really, really great. It's heavy, it's dark, and it's completely in the style of Cacophony. So when you have listened to the two Cacophony records over and over and over and over again, like I've had in the past, this will be a blast for you, like it was for me. Especially their second record, The Eye of Time, is a record that I can highly recommend. The songs and the playing on there is really a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun doing these kind of things and pushing the shred boundaries to a little bit of a darker place and to a little bit more kind of limits. So it is a shame that their two guitar players, Tony and Chip, their last name I can never remember. It's like Chip 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Tony Fradonelli. Wait a second. Tony Fredianelli und Chip 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. Yeah, I can't remember those names, but the playing is really, really great, and I think they deserve so much more attention in the shred world and the shred scene. So, again, when you are somebody who have listened to all of this music, I recommend to check out these guys, because that's some really great stuff. And here's now the lick in the style of Apocrypha. Alright, guitar champions, so much for this little video. I hope you liked this video. I hope I'm going to see you next week, because next week we're talking about the 90s. And I tell you, the 90s is, even though that the 90s was claimed as the death of the guitar solo, what happened in the underground scene is much more interesting than the 80s. Oh yeah, there are some players that are, holy shit, now we are talking, now we are fucking talking. So next week with the 90s, it will be extremely interesting. I hope I'm going to see you there. Cheers and pour your progress. Bye.